It's Monday night, and you know what that means. The Jersey First Television Network probably brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk, and certainly I am the generational talent in Garden State media, and I'll continue to be the sworn enemy of all the social justice clowns, woke fools, insufferable cat ladies, ugly feminists, and identity hysterics throughout the state of New Jersey. That's right, folks. I'm the hero you need right now. Fernando Uribe, happy Monday as we're wrapping up summer. We're wrapping up the month of August. I don't know about you folks, but I'm waking up in the morning. I'm seeing 65, 66, even 70 degrees. Listen, can autumn get here already? I'm done with summer. I know some of you are not, but we appreciate you making this a part of your Monday night viewing on this, the 25th of August here in 2025. And folks, if you haven't done so already, we appreciate it. But if you haven't, just 5 seconds, make sure you check out our social media platforms. Make sure you like us, of course, on Facebook, as well as follow us on Instagram and X. And don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is growing with subscribers. And, of course, whether you get your podcasts on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First and take us with you and listen to all of our great content, whether you're driving down the shore to Point Pleasant for Tiki Mondays, right? Very few remaining during the summer weeks here that are left. Of course, maybe you're going school shopping. Maybe you're moving your kids back to campus at the college or university of their choice, or you're just going, clothes shopping or just school supplies for your kids as they're entering preschool, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, or high school. I'm sure you have your smartphone with you. Take Jersey First with you. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Of course, I can't say enough, folks, what a privilege it is to be, again, front and center here representing the Jersey First Television Network. Of course, always educating and advocating for the residents of the great state of New Jersey. Of course, brand new content. You can check out brand new episodes of Real Talk every Monday night live right here. Check your local listings, of course, for start times here on Jersey First TV. Folks, I want to stick around for final thoughts. I have a lot to say about really the propagandists that are doing a disservice to us in our sort of media echo chamber. And here in Hudson County, folks, when you talk about disservice to media, really you think about Leonard Filipowski, of course, obviously the resident clown here in Hudson County, and whether he's harassing good public servants like State Senator Brian Stack, County Executive Craig Guy, or mayoral candidates like Jim McGreevey, listen, he's always sucking up to even the worst of people. And, of course, his latest antics in the township of North Bergen will remind you why he continues to be a joke in our media echo chamber. So a little bit more on that later during Final Thoughts. And speaking of a joke, well, folks, obviously we all know that Trump derangement syndrome is running wild here in New Jersey, and there's no shortage of it, whether it's in media, academia, activism, you name it, folks. There's no shortage of Trump derangement syndrome here in the great state of New Jersey. Whether, again, we're talking about, low beta male soy boys like Joe Amaditis from Woke State University over there in Montclair, or clueless propagandists like Alan Steinberg, John Van Vliet, Tom Moran. I think he's attending to the fries section at your local Chick-fil-A or Wendy's. I want to check that out. Or other, propagandists. Bob Medina, his insufferable wife, Patty Medina. You have awful women like Nydia Morsi, Amy Torres, and even the propagandists that work in our establishment media, like Uncle Dave, David Cruz, or Max Pizarro with Insider NJ, or even little JJ, Jay Lassiter at Insider NJ. There's no shortage of Trump derangement syndrome, folks, especially when it comes to talking about immigration enforcement. Of course, in the latest piece that caught my attention over the weekend on NJ.com reminds us all, folks, why these cat ladies and these just insufferable feminists continue to make an ass of themselves when it comes to confronting ICE agents on raids that they are legally mandated to do. So more on that during Final Thoughts. You definitely want to stick around for that, folks. It's always entertaining here on the Jersey First Television Network. Folks, again, it takes 5 seconds. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to tonight's episode. And share it. Helps get the episode out to more people and certainly shows your support for Jersey First TV. Folks, it's election season. Really, 2.5 months to go until November the 4th. One of the most hotly contested gubernatorial races I can remember in my adult life. Of course, all 80 state assembly races are up for grabs, as well as a lot of important municipal races. I know here in Hudson County, of course, the city of Jersey City, Hoboken, Guttenberg, Secaucus, and Kearney. Some mayoral races that are definitely getting a lot of attention. And, of course, races everywhere, folks. And who better to talk about it than one of the leading political analysts and commentators in the state of New Jersey? Folks, I got to tell you, when we think about conservatism in New Jersey, right, I mean, let's be honest. I'm the Ric Flair to this guy being the Hulk Hogan of conservatism. And I don't throw those compliments out very lightly, but he's one of the best at it, actually the best at it. He's the founder of Save Jersey, folks, and one of the few Eagles fans I can actually tolerate to talk to. He's my good friend, an incredible guy. Matt Rooney joins us live right now here on Real Talk. Matt, how are you?
I don't know what to do with all that. You compared me to Hulk Hogan, so I was all the way up here. And then you brought up the Cowboys, and I fell right off the cliff. This is an emotional roller coaster at the beginning of this episode.
Well, listen, brother. I mean, listen, I'll be there in a couple of weeks there at what's that dump called? Lincoln, what is it? Lincoln Tunnel Field? Matt, I need a tetanus shot every time I visit that ballpark, brother. I don't know. It's kind of weird for me, but I'll be there when you raise the banner. All right, great. We'll see. New season, but it's always
your first D-Packs on me, buddy. Don't worry about it.
All right. Well, listen, it's always entertaining to visit. And of course, again, I have to visit urgent care the next day to get my tetanus shot being in Philadelphia. But again, Matt, listen, dude, when it comes to conservatism in New Jersey, again, I got to give credit where it's due. Save Jersey has been that preeminent thought leader since 2008, going back some years. So, again, I'll consider myself the Ric Flair of conservatism. You're the Hulk Hogan, brother. I got to be fair about it.
Well, you're too kind. Look, I always like to say that part of the reason why SaveJersey.com became so successful is candidly no one else was doing it. You think it's bad today. Back when I started Save Jersey in 2008, the Star Ledger was still printing. The editorial board was still spewing their garbage. There really wasn't a conservative blogosphere, at least not at the state level. So, I mean, do we do some great stuff at Save Jersey? Is there some wonderful journalism over the years? Absolutely. I'll stand by that all day, 7 days a week, and sometimes on Sunday. But a lot of it has to do with the fact that we filled a void. We recognize that there was something underneath the surface out there in New Jersey. People were thirsting for real news, even if they didn't realize it, because they've just been getting one trash narrative forever. And I got to tell you, this election season, which we were talking about a minute ago, has been so heartening because there's evidence out there concerning how robust that right of center online presence now is. We've got so many activists on X and Facebook and Instagram that are putting wonderful information out there on a daily basis. They don't have a monopoly anymore. And the Star Ledger's no longer printing. And your boy Tom Moran, I don't know what he's doing at the moment. Maybe he's dancing for nickels at one of the PACO or one of the NJ Transit stations.
We can hope. We can only hope.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're making progress. That's the key.
Certainly. And again, Matt, it's not just a gimmick that I throw out every week. I mean, the establishment media here, not just nationally, but in New Jersey, continues to just do us a disservice. And again, I don't listen. It's always great traffic for me when I get to make fun of like NJ Spotlight News and Uncle Dave, David Cruz, or of course Max Pizarro and all the clowns at Insider. We have the Asbury Park Press. We still have some people at the Star Ledger, NJ.com, certainly even Politico, right? I mean, let's be honest. I mean, does anyone have a better work schedule than Matt Friedman? I mean, my God, if this guy works 4 months out of the year, it's a miracle when he's not like, blowing a load on himself about pot that he's growing in his backyard. I mean, I've never seen a grown man get so like erect about marijuana. It's kind of disturbing, Matt, but
he loves marijuana, and look, knock yourself out if that's your preferred poison. But he talks about it a little bit too much, and perhaps it's beginning to show in some of the journalism or lack thereof. You could be more right about how we continue to have, even though they're on the ropes, garbage legacy media in the state. I actually got interviewed by NJ.com about a week ago. I haven't seen the post yet, so maybe I didn't say anything embarrassing enough. They didn't think it had any utility. But the basic premise of the interview was, hey, isn't it kind of sexist that people are referring to I almost just called her Kamala, Mikey Sherrill, as the Kamala of the East Coast, making these comparisons to the former vice president. My response was the obvious one that, stupid comes in all genders, right?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the fact that she's a woman. She's just clearly not up for the task. I mean, we also have Phil Murphy had to correct his own party's nominee to succeed him this week on the all-important issue of our exploding energy bills. So, in a sense, Fernando, your show, you're so successful with your platform, Save
Thank
Jersey's
you.
ripping and roaring. You almost hope they don't figure it out because we're cleaning up. But at the end of the day, you care about New Jersey. I care about New Jersey. I would love to see a media ecosphere in the state that actually cared about informing the state instead of trying to manipulate.
Listen, I'm with you. And what's disturbing also is the fact that they're not even shy about it. I mean, they haven't been shy for the longest time.
Yeah.
When as they openly cheerlead, not just for for Democrats running for governor, but I think even in assembly races or even municipal races, where we've seen that for over really since 2001, when Democrats I think got the majorities in both the state assembly and state senate. I mean, again, it's the level of Trump derangement syndrome is humorous to me, Matt, because it's not Donald Trump that caused you and I to have to pay the highest property taxes in the country. To now, even with gas under $3 because of the gas tax, it's still in the mid to late twos. It shouldn't be, but the gas tax was again, and I can call balls and strikes fairly. Yes, it started under Chris Christie, but let's be honest. I mean, it's for the Transportation Trust Fund. There's nothing to trust about this fund when AAA continues to rank New Jersey roads in the bottom third of the country. So it's almost like, wait a second, it's at some point we have to get past TDS and get to the root of the problem about why New Jersey is on the fiscal cliff that it is, man.
Right. And when you confront a leftist, a TDS sufferer, and you say to them, listen, set aside the fact for a moment that the orange man talks and you're automatically triggered. Can you identify for me a specific policy that you find offensive, that's making your life less prosperous, that's inhibiting your ability to live a free American existence? They can't do it, right? You get a lot of ad hominem. You get some nonsense about how citizens are being rounded up, which we know is not happening in mass. That's not a thing. It's just propaganda from the left and their allies in the media. They can't point to anything. They loathe this man because he continues to reveal them for who they are. That is the genius of Trump that I'll admit even took me a little while to appreciate. I didn't appreciate it immediately when he rode down that golden escalator. But he has an ability that he probably honed many years ago in a negotiation boardroom, fighting over real estate deals in New York City, to compel his opponent to tell everyone what they're all about. And they continue to do it. They just descend further and further into parody of themselves. And as that continues to happen, we see what's happened to their coalition in a state like New Jersey, Fernando. It's contracting dramatically. And now all you have is relatively affluent, white, really far left liberal women that just are so detached from reality, they don't appeal to anyone else.
You're absolutely right about that, Matt. And it really helps us delve into and help dissect again what's going on during this election cycle. And folks, again, if you're just joining us live, it takes 5 seconds. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to tonight's episode. As Save Jersey founder, Matt Rooney joins us live right here now on Real Talk. Matt, let's get into these issues here during this gubernatorial race. We'll dive into the assembly races because I think that, listen, it's going to be very difficult to flip the assembly in this cycle, but Republicans have a really good chance, especially in Central and South Jersey. I mean, up here by me, it's as blue as Windex. Not very realistic. Maybe in Bergen, I'm not sure. Maybe Passaic County, we'll see.
38, maybe. I think you've got a chance in Bergen County where Barry Wilkes is leading a pretty strong assembly ticket.
Yeah, and again, Republicans have a chance to pick up maybe 7 to 8 seats, kind of narrow that margin that Democrats have in the majority, which is 52 to 28 right now in the assembly. But really right now, Jack Chiarelli is not leaving any points on the board. He is up and down the state. I think he learned his lesson from 2021. He is going, I mean, this guy is working 7 days a week. You're seeing him at every cultural event, every food festival, every possible parade. He is rolling up his sleeves. He's getting to work. And on the flip side, Mikey Sherrill has not been as visible. I know she was up by me last week up here in Hudson County in Jersey City at Surf City, a great venue right on the water. But I could tell even with Democrats there was still not this energy that, would think that, again, I don't go by polls. And again, not to, as an alumnus, I hate when people want to shit on Rutgers, but, the Eagleton poll I don't think is very, very reliable as well as others, but there seems to be a John Corzine smell to this campaign. No disrespect to State Senator Vin Gopal. I don't think it's very well run right now. You got other surrogates on that team, Patty Campos Medina, who's a clown. I just don't think this is as good a campaign for a Democrat that's in a real pickle. You can't throw the governor under the bus, but at the same time, you're trying to define your own campaign. And New Jersey's in a real big fiscal mess. How do you see these campaigns so far? First, let's go with Jack Ciattarelli.
I think you're right that Jack Ciattarelli has learned some lessons from 2021, which, perhaps you're listening to this and you say, well, I would hope someone learns from a campaign where they don't ultimately succeed. Hey, listen, you can't teach an old dog new tricks as an expression for a reason. It's harder to evolve as you get older. And Jack is not an ancient guy, right? He's not Joe Biden or something like that, but he's also not a 25-year-old. It gets harder to be able to look at your world and adjust and figure out what you need to do to improve. And when you can do that, when you're in your 50s, your 60s, that's something that demonstrates real leadership. And he's done that. I think he's running a more focused race. I think he recognized last time that people want a little bit more fight in a Republican candidate, New Jersey. I mean, let's face it, you have every reason to be pissed off if you live here and you follow the rules, you pay your taxes, you go to your church or your synagogue, you do things the right way. And it seems as if Trenton is not only not there for you, they're continuously actively fighting against you, right? Whether we're talking about taxes, allowing illegal aliens to run wild, these car theft rings, which instead of suing the Trump administration, that's what our attorney general should be focused on, right? But instead, this is what we have. We have this hyper-political far-left administration, which doesn't serve New Jersey. So I think Jack, so far, is striking a pretty good note. He's exuding competence, which creates a contrast to the Murphy years and to whatever Mikey Sherrill is, but also demonstrating that, yeah, you know what, at least proverbially, he's willing to punch the Trenton bully in the face. He's willing to raise his voice and stand up for us. We're Jersey, right? We're direct. We're not a passive-aggressive people. That's what we want in our leaders. Unfortunately, Fernando, and this brings us back to something you and I have talked about many times, to be a successful statewide Republican candidate in New Jersey, which doesn't happen very often, right? We haven't elected a U.S. senator, a Republican U.S. senator, since the 70s, before Watergate in this state. And Chris Christie was the last one to win in 2013 statewide. You have to be almost perfect when there's an 800,000 registered deficit with the Democrats. The good news for Jack is, as we prepare to enter the fall, pumpkin spice season, your favorite season, my friend, I think he's pretty well positioned to close the rest of that gap and to get across the finish line successfully. But he has to continue to be close to perfect. There's not a lot of room for error.
You're absolutely right about that. And it's always interesting because, listen, it's a lot of the election season becomes a bunch of memes over time. But I listen, I had this conversation last week at the Mikey Sherrill event, and I've talked to operatives all throughout the state, and I'm always consistent. It's like, tell me something that's pro-Democrat Party. Give me something policy-wise. I'm a policy nerd like you are. Give me something that is, at least convincing enough to want to make you vote Democrat this November. It just can't be, well, you don't like Trump. It can't just be anti-Trump. Give me something that at least, along policy lines will try to convince me that, hey, Democrats will keep the state on the right path. And the fact is that they can't name anything. Again, we have the highest property taxes in the country. Okay, Matt? I'll give you an example. Where I live up here in Hudson County, my mayor is also my state senator, does a pretty good job of keeping taxes relatively reasonable. Now, again, I live 2 blocks from looking at Manhattan. I live where I live in Hudson County. I'm paying for a location. I get it. We're right at $10,000. But if I drive just a little bit north along what's called River Road and I look at Manhattan, drive into southern Bergen County, into municipalities like Alpine, Damaris, Cresskill, Closter, we're talking about $15,000, $16,000, $17,000. I go a little bit west into Bergen County. We're talking about 24, 25. I go a little bit south. If I take 78 past the airport and go into parts like Springfield, Summit, Short Hills, we're talking about $26,000, $27,000. I can even imagine down by you, in South Jersey. So we're seeing that property taxes continue to increase. We saw the gas tax go up in its final phase this January after, again, going back to the days of Chris Christie, where I think we're maybe third in the country behind California at 49 cents a gallon that we're paying extra. The tolls on the turnpike went up again and on the parkway. So even as we're wrapping up the summer and we're trying to travel up and down New Jersey, it's still more expensive to travel as a motorist. We saw the budget, go from at the end of Chris Christie's term of $29 billion to 58, almost 59 billion this year. We're coddling illegals with all this money coming from Washington. Yes, while illegals don't get Medicaid directly, folks, guess what happens in Trenton? They take money from Medicaid from the federal government and put it into a fund that makes healthcare available for illegals. We're also coddling the alphabet mob. Matt, there's no shortage of things that Democrats are doing poorly in New Jersey. Yet it's like, Trump, it's not enough this cycle. They didn't learn their lesson last November. They're doomed to repeat it this November, I think.
It's hard to change when something's been working for you for a long time. I remember back when we were entering into the 2018 midterm cycle, Fernando, which didn't end well for Republicans. I remember thinking, what does it take to make a relatively affluent New Jersey suburbanite vote their wallet instead of their culture? Right? I mean, let's just call this for what it is. We live in a relatively affluent state, even though many people are now struggling. And those leftists in the suburbs that used to vote Republican, but more recent cycles have shifted leftward, they're people that can afford to vote their values, right? Abortion, amnesty, transgenderism, because they're not worried where their next meal is coming from. They're not making the choice that some of our neighbors are making this year where they're like, God, do I turn on the air conditioning or do I get that really expensive prescription that the doctor says I really should be taking? That's where we're at in this state. I think what's beginning to change this cycle, and you touched on it a minute ago, my friend, as you move deeper into the suburbs, what happens? The property taxes go up. That's not just because it's more expensive to live in a beautiful, idyllic home in a leafy Garden State suburb. It's because of this school funding formula that Democrats have championed, which is now blowing up on the suburbs. All of a sudden, and this is the key part, I think, New Jerseyans are spending a crap ton of money for their schools, but not seeing a corresponding benefit. How many times have you heard that from Democrats? Oh, well, you pay a lot of money in New Jersey, but you get a value. Look at the services you get for your highest in the nation tax burden. Well, they can't really say that anymore, especially if you're in one of these school districts that is having programs cut. They're talking about closing schools in places like down in Middletown at the Jersey Shore. Is it because of bad budgeting? Not at the local level. It's because Trenton and S2 and the amendment to S2, this ridiculous school funding formula, doesn't work. So it's horrible news for our kids. It's horrible news for those of us that own property and pay taxes. The only silver lining is maybe now people finally get it. And Mikey Sherrill's campaign, to your point, isn't responsive at all. Every time they ask her about a state issue, you get the stutters. And then the one time she's recently attempted to make an actual substantive policy proposal, proposing this utility rate freeze, the Democrat governor of New Jersey has to come out and say, Mikey, you can't do that. There's no mechanism for it. These are private utility companies. So, this is something else that's working in Jack's favor. I said before that he has to be pretty darn close to perfect. Well, it helps an awful lot. And he doesn't have to be as perfect if Mikey Sherrill continues to bumble along. She has not had a good summer. And that's why some of these biased institutions we mentioned, Rutgers, that we both have degrees from, is a good example of that. They'd love to continue to show a double-digit Democrat advantage heading into the fall, but they can't cook the books that much because this race is really close.
And it would be nice for a governor in the future to maybe hold Rutgers accountable. I mean, listen, I'm as diehard an alumnus as you see my social media, but my God, at some point, I mean, there has to be some fiscal accountability at Rutgers and what they're taking from Trenton. And again, I'm not saying, shut down the university for God's sakes, but I mean, again, we're seeing how irresponsible fiscally the climate is in Trenton. And listen, I'm all for higher ed, working higher ed. I get it. I'm a proponent for it. But my God, Matt, I think we both see that, schools like Rutgers and other, woke state university over in Montclair, they get a lot of subsidies too at the expense of taxpayers. And it's like, I get it. The population's growing, but, Democrats want to brag about we have the best public schools in the nation. I'm not sure about the universities and colleges, man.
Well, and how are you measuring success anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like we talk about it all the time, Fernando, that we have kids going deep into debt, well into their adult years. They have to continue living in their parents' basements, unable to afford that first home, in part because they owe $60, $80, $100,000 for a degree in English literature, or worse still, like Eastern handpan music, right? Women's studies. I mean, Rutgers, okay, and all of these other public institutions or quasi-public institutions love to say that we have wonderful institutions judged against their barometer. I think the barometer should be, do our children in this state emerge from these institutions with the tools they need to actually be able to pay for their existence? The answer is, in many cases, they can't. And that's the nicest thing you could say about Rutgers University at the moment. Back to the polling for a second, if I can. They put out a poll back in June that everyone laughed at, saying Jack Ciattarelli was down like 20-some points. No one thought it was real. It was garbage methodology. Either Ashley Koenig, who is the director of that poll at Rutgers Eagleton, is one of the dumbest people on the planet, which I suppose is possible, or it's voter suppression. Right? And since this is a Rutgers institution, folks, guess what? It's you in a roundabout way subsidizing it. Just a couple months later, now they come out with this new poll saying that Jack improved 11 points over the summer. I guess it's conceivable, Fernando, that people are getting their electric bills, and after they're done swallowing their tongue, they say, maybe I should consider voting for the Republican. But I don't think that's what that is here. Once again, the institutions, folks, that you subsidize are the ones working against you. It is so offensive. You should be offended. And it's just one of 1,600 reasons why you should vote for change this November.
I'm with you. Folks, if you just joined us live right now, it is 7:20 on the East Coast here. My guest is the distinguished founder of Save Jersey, which you can visit at savejersey.com. It's my good friend, Matt Rooney, join us live here on Real Talk. Again, folks, like, comment, and share. It takes 5 seconds. It helps get the show out to more people here via the Jersey First Television Network. Matt, obviously, Jack didn't have anywhere as near a contentious primary battle as Mikey Sherrill did. But within the Republican ranks, it seems like, listen, it's Labor Day next Monday, and no one's heard from Bill Spadea. There's still some Spadea supporters statewide that obviously were not happy about what happened on June the 10th. But for a guy that is as emphatic about change in New Jersey and about being a conservative, about supporting the president, about supporting the president's agenda, where we're seeing that, in 2026, for example, the big, beautiful bill will help save New Jerseyans thousands of dollars. Kind of concerned. I mean, I know Ed the Trucker got on board, State Senator John Bramnick, Mr. Charisma himself got on board with supporting Jack. Kind of alarmed about Bill Spadea. Do you think that maybe that could have a little bit of effect for Republicans moving forward? Because it just seems like he's going to go back to his job at NJ 101.5, which is great, fine, good host. I'm not saying a bad word about Bill. We're friends. We've gone out, have dinner, no problem. But are you concerned at all that maybe he saw some influence within Republican circles and that could hurt Jack subsequently going into the fall?
No, not really. I mean, look, I will be the first one to say I didn't think that Bill Spadea over the final couple months of that campaign had much of a shot. I think there was a point in this race earlier on where someone with his natural talent set and skills could have made this a competitive primary, but he blew it at every turn. We could spend an entire episode of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe talking about the disaster that was the Spadea campaign. But at the end of the day, it was a rout beyond what even folks like myself were predicting. I think some of that had to do with the campaign Jack ran and some residual name recognition from 21 and some of the support that he received from key quarters. But at the end of the day, the important measure for your question is what impact is Spady sitting on the sidelines or even working against Jack going to have? He didn't really get too many votes. He just about cracked 100,000. I suspect, and I know it's anecdotal, but just scrolling, say, Jersey social media, my social media, talking to friends, there are a lot of people that voted for Bill not because they were enamored with his message. There really wasn't a compelling one. It's just that they had doubts about Jack Ciattarelli. Maybe, for example, because he was the nominee last time and wasn't successful, even if they couldn't identify what their specific gripe with his campaign last time was. So I think most of the people that voted for Bill are probably going to come along anyway. We can thank Phil Murphy and Mikey Sherrill for that, for some degree, because at the end of the day, most elections are still binary choices. So when you see what the future looks like, looking into Mikey's vapid eyes, right? It's really the best sales pitch for Jack you could ever hope for. But I mean, really, at the end of the day, I think that what we found was that Bill wasn't as influential as many people thought. I mean, hell, I've listened to NJ 1015 for many years. Some of the folks on that station I love. Some of them I've even considered, colleagues, friends, whatever. The station maybe doesn't have the influence that we once thought it had. When their host in the morning, right, which is the marquee program of any station, is barely able to fetch 100,000 votes in a Republican primary. So would I like to see Bill being productive? Yes, we were friends for many years. He took some shots at me at that last debate that I moderated, but I'm a big boy. I can get over things. I can't say that for everyone. I'd love to be out there alongside him in the trenches, but I don't think if Jack Ciattarelli falls short, it's going to be because Bill Spady decided to proceed in a petulant way here.
Fair enough. Great analysis as always. Now, on the Democrat side, obviously Mikey Sherrill had 5 other Democrats, and it almost seemed like they were trying to, out progressive the progressive to be the progressive. And yeah, sure, you had some middle of the road guys like Representative Gottheimer out in Bergen County. Certainly had Steve Sweeney, former Senate president. But it was interesting that after that stunt, because that's what it was from Newark Mayor Ross Baraka, man, he really shut up on the polls. It helped his fundraising. It helped with his visibility on a national level. Obviously, it helped him catapult to a second place finish behind Mikey Sherrill. Steve Fulop, the mayor of Jersey City nearby, who I know personally, another guy who went up and down the state for 2 years. I mean, I would argue didn't leave any points on the board either. Came in a distant third.
Came on my show. I'll give Fulop all the credit in the world for that.
I watched it. I watched that. That was a great episode. I mean, I give Steve credit. He won't come on my show, and I'm like 5 minutes away from his office, but go figure. But it was interesting because it seemed like a lot of the establishment Democrat Party power brokers, from Leroy Jones, the state chair, who, by the way, you can't find. I mean, he's disappeared quicker than the Yankees in August, for God's sakes. But
him and Mikey are hiding out in the same basement, I think.
Maybe.
The only logical conclusion.
But the other big power brokers, Carl DiVincenzo, the Essex County executive, you had Kevin McCabe out of Middlesex County, certainly Craig Guy, the Hudson County executive, State Senator Brian Stack, Senate President Nick Scutari were all about Team Mikey, and that really helped get her across the finish line, not just like scraping by, but like decisively over the other Democrat challengers. And I think that, and you saw it during the debates. And again, shout out to my good friend David Wildstein, and obviously the great staff at Rider University, Micah Rasmussen, certainly Joey Fox, and everybody else. You as well during the primaries for the Republican Party debates. But it just seemed like Mikey played a little bit safe, didn't come out as progressive, I think, as the others, as Fulop did, as Baraka did, as Sean Spiller did. But now it's like, well, she kind of realizes, I think I would argue, she has to kind of get back into the middle. But she's really walking a tightrope, though, Matt, because you can't throw the governor under the bus. You can't throw the Democrat establishment under the bus because they help get you across the finish line, but you're still not defining who you are. Like if you go on our website, yes, I want to make New Jersey more affordable. How? It just seems like that's the bump in the road that Sherrill continues to face. Am I wrong?
They can't say what they believe. I mean, imagine living your life like that, when your worldview is so poisonous, so bigoted, so malicious towards many of your neighbors, half the country, right, that doesn't agree with you, and then a lot of other people who you look down your nose at, and you think you're better then. That's the leftist elite, like Mikey Sherrill in a nutshell. And that's why they can't say what they think. So, I mean, I think that you're mostly right on there, my friend. I mean, my only quibble, and I don't think you disagree with me. I mean, I don't really think there was a centrist Democrat running in that primary. I think there was varying degrees of what's the right way to put this?
Well,
Not
well,
honesty, but
I mean, Matt, I'm sorry, I'll let you finish your thought, but I would
yeah.
argue Gottheimer, again, compared to, how insane Sean Spiller sounded and how insane Baraka sounded, Representative Gottheimer was kind of, listen, he voted for the Laken Riley Act. Good for him. He got some grief about that, right? He caught a lot of shit from Democrats and progressives and how racist and how bigoted that was. But I would argue that Gottheimer was probably the closest guy to the center, even though there's still some things on his voting record I'm not a fan of. But if we're calling balls and strikes fairly, I would argue that Gottheimer was probably the guy closest to the center, but not by much, though, man.
Well, right, though, but that's the key, right? So our standard for leftist sanity or lack thereof is so low in 2025 that we're giving someone credit for being a centrist because they're, for example, willing to vote for legislation that would kick somebody out of the country that rapes an American citizen. I mean, is that what qualifies someone as a centrist in 2025? That party has fallen so far, so fast. So I think the really only differentiating factor in that primary is how honest they were willing to be about their cuckoo crazy views. I think part of the reason, honestly, Mikey got through is because New Jersey, especially on the left side of the aisle, the Democrat side of the aisle, is still very much a machine state. And machines tend to like two distinct type of candidates. They like pliable sugar daddies like John Corzine and Phil Murphy, who can't always be bullied around, but are willing to go ahead and spend a significant amount of their own money to enrich Democrat parties and machines and bosses and campaigns. And that's what both those guys did. They very much spread it around, right? Or they like vapid vessels that they think they can control. They thought that's who Jim McGreevey was. They definitely think that's who Mikey Sherrill is. They think they can control her. So in the Democrat Party, I'm not even sure ideology is really what decided it. It's a bunch of Democrat interests think that this is the one that they can bully and boss into serving their agenda. And candidly, I don't think she really knows the difference. She's not that bright. She's not that talented. It blows my mind how she got into the Naval Academy. And at the end of the day, that was the major criterion for the support that she received. And that's why she had such a relatively modest victory. Like, yes, she won, but it wasn't like she won 60, 70% of the vote like Jack did, right? She got through with the help of these Democrat Party organizations. Not much of a ringing endorsement from the base. And it might tell you something about why there's a lack of enthusiasm for her right now.
Fair enough, though, too. And it's interesting, again, going back to the event I went to last week where I got to talk to so many Dem operatives and activists and everything.
Yeah.
And I was very
I'm
impressed.
sorry.
Well, listen, it was open bar. I mean, you know me. I'm going to jump in all these events anytime. Listen, as much as Insider NJ hates me, you think I'm going to pass up the 2-hour open bar at the league? Are you kidding me? Of course not.
Can't blame you.
No, not at all. I mean, I feel like I need a tennis shot after being around everybody at Insider NJ, but that's a conversation for another day. But it was interesting because I said, listen, just for the sake of argument, I know that your vote blue no matter who, you're going to put up the brave face and say, let's go, Mikey. But I said, you know what? Jack's going to win. And I have a really good feeling. I'm cautiously optimistic like you, but I feel Jack's going to win. But even with dragging some people across the finish line too, I mean, again, Republicans still face an uphill battle in the legislature. I mean, they can maybe, again, up here, I mean, it's as blue as Windex, as I've said before. But in Central and South Jersey, there's 7 to 8 races, maybe a little bit, even Bergen County too, where Republicans, again, right now are at a 52 to 28 deficit. If they shave into that and get into maybe the mid to late 30s, and again, Democrats will control the legislature. As I said to the operative, it's like, okay, I get it. Jack's not going to be able to just go crazy and let's, yeah, sure, he'll sign some executive orders, which makes sense. Rescinding sanctuary statehood, making sure that the federal government and ICE can work with local law enforcement, making sure that we give rights back to parents in New Jersey. At the end of the day, budget season starts in January, February. It doesn't get decided until June. Again, if Governor Ciattarelli were to sign certain executive orders, listen, Matt, you're an attorney. That could get bogged down in court for months at a time. And in the meantime, Democrats still have majorities in the legislature. So I get that Democrats are all panicking and freaking out, but at the end of the day, they still have some advantage because of the majorities in the legislature.
They do, and it limits how much you can hope is going to change with a Republican governor. That's true. But at the same time, let's not forget we have one of the most powerful governorships in the entire country. I talk to friends from other states that aren't as familiar with the nuances of NJ politics. They cannot believe that we don't elect an attorney general, right? We don't elect our judges here. Most of the important state figures and many of the ones on boards that you maybe have never even heard of, but have a direct impact on your daily life and certainly your bottom line, they are either directly appointed by the governor or they're nominated, and then the Senate goes ahead and has advice and consent. That's what they provide. So, there's a lot, to your point, via executive order that Jack could accomplish if he's successful. And the good news is, in the realm of securing New Jersey, cleaning up our voter rolls, making sure that we cooperate fully with the Trump administration to remove illegals, particularly dangerous illegal aliens. Remember, it's been estimated that in a state of 9 million people, we might have as many 900,000 illegal aliens here. That is insane, right? And we don't know who many of these people are. He can do a lot with executive order in that realm. He can also do a lot via executive order in the energy sector. You've got an electric bill. It's a horror show right now. Double or triple what they were this time last year. Jack can do a lot to roll back some of these ridiculous electrification mandates immediately on day one, which will not only over time have a massive impact on utility expenses, but also supercharge the state, help our economy. So there's good news and there's bad news. We have to accept the fact, and this is something that conservatives always have a problem with, that great change comes incrementally. We haven't always had the patience that the left has, and it's one of the reasons why they've been so successful in almost wrecking the country. They're willing to play the long game. We're going to have to do that. But on some of the most important issues, Jack should be able to move immediately, and he will be appointing the attorney general. So I'm sure, like you said, there will be some leftists that are going to go ahead and are going to try to jam certain things up in the court. But it also certainly helps that at the moment we have the president, who, as much as they're trying to torpedo Alina Tahab at the moment, at the end of the day, President Trump is going to get a U.S. attorney that he has confidence in. We've got allies. We've got air support we haven't had in the past. There's reason for optimism. And most importantly, Fernando, there's reason if you're out there in New Jersey tonight watching this program and thinking, like, does it really matter if I vote in this damn election? Yes, your life can get measurably, significantly better if we make a change at the gubernatorial position.
Absolutely. And again, at the top of the ticket, obviously we know who's leading them. And certainly that is going to make a difference. I would argue, Matt, in a lot of legislative races where, for everybody at home, if you're not familiar or aware, all 80 state assembly seats are up for grabs. And again, while Democrats have a majority of 52 to 28, Republicans have a really good chance to, again, shave into that majority. There's a lot of unpopular Democrats in the state assembly where they're very vulnerable. And I think with a strong showing by Jack, again, they could ride his coattails, get across the finish line. We talked about Bergen County, but down in your neck of the woods or even central Jersey, who would you argue, though, Matt, are some of the more vulnerable Democrats in the assembly races where, again, Republicans have a chance to make some gains into that majority? And hopefully, again, as you said, change comes in incrementally. 7 to 8 seats here, maybe 7 to 8 seats in 27. But first things first, where do you see some vulnerable Democrats in central and south Jersey?
So if you put a proverbial gun to my head, Fernando, and you said, who is the most vulnerable Democrat incumbent in 2025 New Jersey? Hands down, Andrea Katz. So For my friends a little bit further north or way up north, I'll give you a little bit of a geography lesson. The 8th legislative district, mostly down in Burlington County. So we're talking about the Philly suburbs here. The biggest town is Evesham, which has Marlton in it, which is a neighborhood that a lot of people know. Lots of suburbs, lots of very classic Jersey developments. Also, very much one of those stereotypical communities that used to be lean Republican, but in recent years went a little bit woke. Andrea Katz is a freshman assemblyman there who I think that last time she won by like 63 votes or something ridiculous like that, and unseated Brandon Umba, a Republican freshman at the time. Since then, doesn't really have much in the way of accomplishments that she can put out there for voters as a way to burnish her own credentials in their mind. She is unfortunately having to live with the fact that in a past life, she was one of the biggest proponents of that school funding formula that we've been talking about, the amendments to S2, which are gutting suburban school districts across the country, including in her own district. And she's out there doing what politicians often do so well, which she's pointing a finger in every direction, when really she should be directing the finger at herself. She is one of the authors of the current mess, which is not only going to damage our children's public education, but also is making property taxes explode in a lot of communities. So bottom line is, when you only won by a hair last time and you have to defend that sort of a record, man, it ain't looking too hot for you. So if you made me pick which seat I think is most likely to flip, it would be that one. But South Jersey, you're not wrong. It's where the action is, my man. Like, for example, 3rd legislative district down in South Jersey takes in Salem, parts of Cumberland, parts of Gloucester. That's Ed the Trucker's old district. That district just voted last fall 7.5 points for Donald Trump. So if Jack Ciattarelli can do as well or nearly as well as President Trump in that district, there's a chance that those assembly candidates are going to get pulled along on his coattail. Same thing in LD4, a little bit further north. That's Gloucester County. That's a county that I think Jack won by like 12 points last time. And there's no reason to think he's performing worse anywhere this time around. So kind of bringing everybody back up to 30,000 feet here. If we win the legislature, the assembly specifically this year, because the Senate's not up, obviously that would be ideal. But if Republicans all of a sudden go from having 20-something seats to 35 seats, 36 seats, 37 seats with a Republican governor, all of a sudden you might be able to get some stuff done. It ain't going to be easy, but there's going to be some pressure on some surviving Democrats in borderline districts to either support the governor on some bipartisan common sense kind of legislation to attack property taxes, to attack our utility bills, or continue to be a rank partisan and be a whole hell of a lot vulnerable next time when you have a Republican governor that can raise money to dump it on your head. So, again, there's a lot of places where the GOP can advance the ball this time. If you're looking for an elixir, we ain't going to save New Jersey, shameless plug, in one election, but we can take a hell of a big step forward in just a couple of months here.
Speaking about raising money, I'm a little disappointed. Again, you can tell me if I'm wrong just based on what I read, that it seems like the Republican Governors Association isn't really very invested in this race as they are in Virginia, Matt. And again, this is a chance for Republicans to win here for the first time really since 2009. And again, the wind is to the Republicans' back, and it just seems like Listen, I don't want to accuse anybody of the NJGOP for not working. They are working hard, obviously, to try and help Jack. But at the same time, it just seems like, the NJGOP's been here before. There's some momentum, and they get to the goal line, get stopped at the 1, fumble the ball out of bounds. I don't know. We saw that in 23 during those midterms where they picked up seats in 21 and they gave them back again. Is there any concern by you, from people you talk to, about whether or not, let's be honest, Jack is getting the support that he should be? Yes, he has the president's endorsement. We're not sure if the president's coming to New Jersey in the fall. I mean, listen, I'm sure if he comes to that dump called MetLife Stadium, which is like 10 minutes from me, I'm sure he could fill up that building to some extent, maybe 40, 50,000 people, maybe a little bit more like he did at the beach last year in Wildwood. And again, listen, I think there are parts of the state that the president is immensely popular in.
Yeah.
You saw the gains he made last November. He only lost New Jersey by, I think, 4 points. Up here in Hudson County, he flipped cities like Bayonne and Secaucus, made gains in ultra blue areas like Union City, where I live, West New York, North Bergen, parts of Jersey City, even parts of Passaic County.
I'd love to see a Trump rally in Hudson County. I think there would be lines around the block, and not of protesters, of supporters.
But are you concerned at all that maybe the GOP at a national level isn't giving the support that the Chiarelli campaign, I think, needs really with 2 months to go?
Yes, I am concerned about that. Now, the NJGOP specifically, I'll say this. Glenn Paulson, who's the new chairman, and Kate Gibbs, who's the new executive director. I've known Kate for many years, professionally, personally. She's a hardworking person, and I think with the limited time that they have, they're trying to do a hell of a lot. They're having Protect the Vote events in conjunction with the RNC all over the state. I think there's one tomorrow, actually. And I've talked to her about the field program that they're building. A lot of it off the record simply because they don't want to let the bad guys know what they're up to. But I think with the resources they have, they're trying. My concern is that at this moment, the Democrat Governors Association has reserved about $20 million in ad time through the November election. The RGA, the Republican equivalent, has reserved nothing. I've received various explanations from my sources as to why this is. One of the reasons I hear is that Republicans, being kind of a pessimistic, gloomy lot, are just convinced that next year the midterms are going to be a bear, and they're a little bit worried about spending resources on something in New Jersey they view as a reach. If that's true, Fernando, I can't use strong enough language to explain how backwards that thinking is. I mean, you just have to be a student of history, right? In 1993, even though she ended up being a flake, Christine Todd Whitman's election in New Jersey was one of the precursors to Newt Gingrich's Republican Revolution in 1994. Similarly, in 2009, Chris Christie unseating John Corzine in New Jersey, despite being outspent 5-1, was one of the first ripples for a red wave that would ultimately transform into the Tea Party revolution in 2010. Bottom line is, if you want to make things happen nationally, as Republicans, you can begin to build a narrative in the Garden State with a big win in that odd cycle. So if Republicans ultimately end up taking a pass on New Jersey this year, I mean, what can we say about it other than this is the reason why the GOP's brand consistently polls far less than the president's, or I should say far worse than the president's brand. We want fighters. We want leaders that are willing to take risks, that are going to go fighting in purple and blue territory. That's what Trump has done. And you indicated that a moment ago with your highlighting of how well he did in some of New Jersey's urban areas. That's what the GOP nationally needs to do in New Jersey in 2025. If they don't, I mean, it'll be mostly our loss, obviously, because it'll make it more likely that Mikey Sherrill can squeak by here. But it's also going to be a very negative thing for all Americans, because it's going to be a lost opportunity to take that America First revolution into really fertile territory here at the Garden State.
Absolutely. And listen, isn't it interesting how during COVID and right after COVID in 2021, Democrats thought, hey, listen, they cornered the market on vote by mail, early voting, and Republicans got smart in 2024, and even during those midterms in 2022. And we saw what happened in New Jersey. We saw vote by mail explode for Republicans. We saw early voting really explode as well, which is why, again, going back to, again, for you and I are students of history, not since George H.W. Bush in 1988 did the 14 electoral votes in New Jersey go red, and that's how long it's been. And Trump came within 4 points of that. So I would argue
Republican showing since 1992. Bush Sr.'s unsuccessful attempt at re-election. So, again, we've heard from some folks in our state, John Bramnick's one of them over the years who've suggested to Trump some kind of anchor around the leg of Republicans in the Garden State. With all due respect, that's bullshit. They need to take a page out of Donald Trump's book. He knows how to do this better than they do.
Absolutely. And coming up, obviously, in September, I believe on Sunday, September 29th, obviously the first of the two gubernatorial debates will take place at Rider University. Again, shout out to David Wildstein with the New Jersey Globe, Laura Jones with OANN, obviously, certainly Joey Fox. I know Micah Rasmussen will be there. Will you be there, sir? I know you become sort of a permanent fixture in that debate panel coming up with the New Jersey Globe. Will you be there on that panel in September?
Shocking that the Democrat didn't want me on the stage for the general election debate, right? I was really hopeful that she would be that crazy. I'll probably be haunting it like the Phantom of the Opera,
Sure.
hanging out up there in the rafters. I'll be there in some capacity. I was talking to David a little bit about it the other day, and one of the things I love about David Wildstein is that he is in love with New Jersey, in love with its politics, sometimes more than I am. I get disenchanted far more often than he does for probably obvious reasons. He loves the spectacle of it, and I think he's going to want a lot of voices and a lot of attention on that gubernatorial debate because he's picking sides. No, I'm a partisan. He's not. David cares about New Jersey, and he wants New Jerseyans to take their state seriously, and he wants the national folks to take things seriously. I mean, to tie these two thoughts together, when the RGA no-showed the last Republican primary debate that I was one of the panelists for, David let him have it. Is it because David is in the tank for Jack Ciattarelli? No, it's because David wants New Jersey to take its place as where it belongs, as one of the great states of this wonderful United States. So I'm sure I'm going to be there in some capacity. Stay tuned. And obviously, heading into November, we've got lots of plans for Save Jersey, the Matt Rooney Show over on 1210 WPHT. I have a very allowing, forgiving, wonderful wife who puts up with my BS this time of year. So hopefully we can get through the fall united here. That's my hope and my dream and my wish.
I mean, I'll be there as well. I'll be in the media scrum trying to ask questions like I did before. Yeah. And, it's good to get them on the air for sure. Matt, it's interesting because when you look at, obviously the way this debate is set up, and obviously, listen, kudos to David Wildstein. He's the best in the business at it. He's got a great staff there, obviously with Micah Rasmussen, certainly Joey Fox, Laura Jones. I think he's going to have Sophie Nieto Munoz from the New Jersey Monitor on the panel, I think, which, not a surprise. I mean, she's kind of like a woke warrior. So I'm sure Mikey Sherrill will get some sort of softball question from Sophie. No question. I'm sure she'll ask her about identity and the importance of pronouns in New Jersey and how that supersedes, property taxes and public safety, Matt. So stay tuned for that with Sophie Nieto Munoz. But in all seriousness, there's going to be this optic, unfortunately, that on that stage, Jack's got to be careful. The wrong answer, the wrong reference, the wrong look. It's not going to take much for the establishment media, whether it's David Cruz, Max Pizarro, you name it, to be like, look at the misogynist that Jack Church, look how he talks to a woman. Look how sexist he is and the way look at the tone of voice he used against Mikey Sherrill, a distinguished servicewoman. That's coming, Matt.
It's coming, but I think what Jack needs to do, if I can belabor one of our themes here tonight on Real Talk, is take a page from the book of the 45th and 47th President of the United States. Don't buy into their BS narrative. Don't play by their rules. When they accuse you or suggest that you're being sexist, when they try to make you defend Donald Trump, make the argument that you want to make. As lawyers, that's my day job. That's one of the things we learn. Yes, you have to answer the judge directly, but ultimately, at the end of the day, you go into court framing your argument. And that's what he has to do. So if they or one of the moderators or something alludes to the fact that somebody's sexist or Jack's sexist towards Mikey Sherrill, he should lash right back out at them and say, listen, it's really wonderful that you folks in your ivory tower have time for this bullshit when seniors are trying to decide whether they're going to pay their electric bill or pick up their prescription. Families aren't worried about scaling back their vacation anymore. It's, hey, can we continue to keep our kid in community college, or do we have to bring them home to make them work because we're having trouble with the mortgage? Those are real New Jersey conversations right now. And I continue to believe that that's where the real middle in this state is. It isn't Steve Sweeney or Josh Gottheimer, who don't really in many ways have a core. It's your average New Jerseyan out there who doesn't watch your program, read my website on a daily basis. We wish they did. They go to soccer, they go to work, they volunteer at their church, they go home and they realize that they're working harder, but there's less money in their bank account and they're living more paycheck to paycheck than they ever were before. And you know what? Maybe they're even a little bit more moderate on some of these social issues, but what the hell do they care who pees in which bathroom when none of us can afford to live in New Jersey? That's what Trump tapped into in 2024. Do you remember that ad when he said, he's for you, she's for they, them? Correct. That was gold. That's what Jack needs to do down the close here over the final couple months. Montclair Mikey's values are so detached from the reality of everyday New Jerseyans.
That's right.
That's what he needs to return to when those familiar attacks are being launched by her allies in the media. If he does that, and he does it passionately and authentically, not only is it not going to work, Fernando, he's going to be able to turn that into a positive.
Oh, I agree. Matt, let me pick your legal brain for a minute. You're an accomplished attorney. I always seem to hear this ongoing online narrative from all these progressives and all the woke fools and the social justice clowns and the alphabet mob when it comes to immigration, it comes to ICE and their presence in New Jersey. Now, again, very simple legal argument. Obviously, hopefully Jack wins. He rescinds the sanctuary statehood in New Jersey. But at the end of the day, what are all these progressives and all these woke fools, campaigning against or rallying against when it comes to complying with federal immigration law? Like, what leg do they, theoretically, let's sort of like come up with a hypothetical here. What leg do they have to stand on, if any, when it comes to their legal argument? Oh, well, they're not showing a warrant, or they're not showing their badge, or, what right do they have to be here? What legal argument, Matt, can you make right now that just shuts up this entire bullshit from the left when it comes to immigration in New Jersey?
Oh, wow. You're really putting me through my paces here. You want a silver bullet argument to shut up all the leftists in New Jersey.
Well, it's not easy, but legally though, at the end of the day, when they're saying, oh, they're showing up without a warrant, or you have no right to be here, and this is fascism, and there's no reason for the federal government to get involved with immigration here in New Jersey. Like, what are some of the legal arguments that just shoots these idiots down?
Yeah, first and foremost, you don't have an inalienable right to be illegally present in the United States of America, right? No such argument exists. No such legal theory exists. And, they love to use the phrase undocumented instead of illegal. Talk about mental gymnastics. An arsonist is not an undocumented fire starter, right? These are people who either snuck into the country, either by themselves or with a coyote. In many cases, especially in a state like New Jersey, they overstayed visas. And guess what, folks? Part of the reason why your life is getting more expensive in states like New Jersey is because you've got a state of 9 million people, many of whom don't work, right? And about 900,000 of whom are currently using your resources in the Garden State for school. They're driving on your roads, they're drinking your water, they're using their sewer, but they're not contributing at the same level you are. Maybe they're paying a little bit of sales tax when they go to the store and they purchase some groceries, but that's about it. So, at the end of the day, one of the most frustrating things I find, Fernando, about this entire illegal alien argument is that the people that are the most aggrieved by what ICE is doing are white, relatively affluent liberals like Mikey Sherrill that live in communities where they don't have to worry about taking a walk in the park or down to the coffee shop or the grocery store or the school and running into a drug corner or being molested figuratively or literally by MS-13 or some other transnational gang. It's something that, back to an argument I was advancing a moment ago on your program, it's almost kind of the province of rich white liberals who don't have to fear for their safety on a daily basis to virtue signal about illegal immigration. Meanwhile, ironically, those that are most imperiled by an open border and unrestricted migration in this country are Black and brown Americans who live in communities where they do have to worry about drugs and crime and violence, random violence on our street corners. So, I really wish somebody would say it in the New Jersey election 2025 context even more directly. This is more evidence that these white liberal Democrats that run the party, Phil Murphy, Mikey Sherrill, don't really give a damn about the people that they pretend to care about. The only person that I can really see that's evidencing how much he cares is Trump and his administration. If I'm the mayor of a place like Newark or Jersey City or Patterson or Hoboken, I would welcome ICE to come in and do the job that I've been unwilling to do, which is defend my people. And, they want it both ways, right?
Yeah.
In the past, they've said, well, states like New Jersey should be sanctuary states because taking care of immigration and controlling the border, that's a federal concern. So by cooperating with ICE, we're interjecting ourselves in it. Now they're having the other side of it. They want to, again, have their cake and eat it too. They're saying that, whoa, hold on a second, right? This is something that, maybe we should be involved in. It's all craziness. It's all sophistry. The good news is I think the people of New Jersey are seeing directly through it. I mean, ask the family of that beautiful young lady and her daughter that were killed in Ocean County, right, by an alleged drunk driver, an illegal alien, just about a month ago. They'd be here today if it weren't for the policies of Biden and Harris and Phil Murphy that Mikey Sherrill wants to continue.
It's really dreadful, and it's preposterous to even think that there's even a logical argument against enforcing federal immigration law. Matt, before I let you go real quick here, obviously for the rest of 2025 and going into 2026, what can we expect out of Save Jersey? And also, is Cory Booker going to have an opponent maybe named Matt Rooney in 2026, bro? You want to share something with me here tonight?
I usually joke that for someone like me to run for office, we have to get really desperate. Maybe we are that desperate in New Jersey. We'll see how this year goes. I mean, look, back to the beginning of our conversation tonight when you compared me to Hulk Hogan, which is a child of the 80s and 90s, is the highest compliment that can be offered to an American male. I really enjoy what I do, what you do. And I think it's what we candidly still need in New Jersey. We need people in this space, the media space, advancing America First principles, conservative arguments, challenging the narrative. We've made tremendous progress in that battle, but we haven't won that yet. So that's what, if I can be a little less humble for a moment, I think it's what I'm good at. I think it's what you're good at, my friend. I enjoy what you do. It's what I'd like to continue doing. I do think there's a chance that Cory Booker could get a real challenge next year, though. That's for damn sure, especially if Jack Ciattarelli is successful this fall. I don't think there are many Democrats in the country, candidly, that are safe if a state like New Jersey can go red in 2025. That should be your incentive, folks. You're even tempted to consider sitting on the sidelines this year.
Absolutely. Matt, tell us a little bit more about your involvement with the America First Policy Institute. What does it consist of? And quite frankly, take us back into what went into your participation and quite frankly, just convincing you to get on board.
Sure. And I got to do the disclaimer, right? But I am a lawyer, right? So when I'm talking about America First Policy Institute, 501c3 hat here on, it's a nonpartisan organization, right? We don't get involved in partisan politics. But the principle, I think, is one that's going to be familiar to everybody watching this, that part of the reason why the country is beginning to move back in the right direction is not just because of President Trump, even though he's the indispensable man in almost every respect. It's what he represents. It's America First principles, the principles right now that are finally, for the first time in my lifetime, beginning to reform the federal government. So we've got this crazy idea that America can become stronger if America First principles are allowed to take root and grow in every state in the union. So after the president won in November, had some conversations with some folks here in New Jersey and some friends down in DC, some of whom work for the America First Policy Institute. And they told us that they'd love to have a New Jersey chapter. And they invited myself and my friend and colleague and mentor, former Superior Court Judge Mike Donahue, to start a New Jersey chapter. And we were just so honored because if people don't know what this is, Fernando, the America First Policy Institute was started back in 2021 when members of the first Trump administration were not only about to be out of jobs, but they were also blacklisted because of how the media and the legal establishment and the entire deep state in this country was fully aligned against President Trump and his allies. So they said, you know what, we have to do our own thing. We have to set up our own shop. And they created a think tank. They created an engine for advocacy. And something like 2/3 or 3/4 of the executive orders that President Trump enacted when he immediately came back to office. You remember he had that epic signing ceremony, originated with AFPI. They very much created an administration in exile that, much like Jack Ciattarelli learned some lessons here in New Jersey from 21, President Trump and his allies learned a lot from the first administration and those experiences. So, I mean, very much what we're trying to do here in New Jersey is advance those principles. We'll have some events coming up soon that I definitely want to share with you, and hopefully you can share with your audience.
Yeah.
We've already put out some great materials delving deeply into some of these topics, like why are your electric bills so expensive? Why are your property taxes the worst in the country? The politicians talk about these things, but the why is so important because that leads to the how do we fix it. So being a nerd like you are, I think you don't mind if I apply that to you,
No,
because
no.
we both are for this stuff. It's kind of nice to very much delve into that angle and be able to explore that and be able to candidly help educate my fellow citizens. I think it's part of the path to making New Jersey a freer and more prosperous state.
Matt, last thing here, obviously waking up in the morning, it's late August, but I like the fall weather. I like it 65 degrees in the morning when I go on my porch and, go get the paper and get my morning coffee. It just reminds me that the leaves will be changing color. And certainly that reminds me that the baseball playoffs are around the corner, not for my Yankees, certainly for your Phillies, but also reminds me that the fall is coming and the NFL will resume. And obviously, as a devoted member of Cowboys Nation and a fan of America's team, certainly I'm a little nervous about going to Philadelphia opening night. Obviously, listen, we all need a tetanus shot when we visit that dump down there in the city of brotherly love. But
is this interview over yet?
Yeah. It happens. We're seeing, Barkley on the cover of Sports Illustrated. We're seeing a lot of attention on the Eagles. It's very possible maybe a Super Bowl hangover. How do you see this roster? Any concerns for you for the Eagles coming up this year? Or do you feel that, quite frankly, they can repeat without any problem?
I mean, we had like 3 trades in the past 24 hours or something like that. A dizzying amount of activity out of Lincoln Financial. Look, I will say this. Being an Eagles fan for all 40 years of my life, having seen them now won a Super Bowl, I don't want to say I've lost the eye of the tiger, but I've got a great degree of satisfaction in my heart. I mean, you being a Cowboys fan, which is disgusting, but you grew up watching the Cowboys, right? Have that Lombardi trophy on more than one occasion. So,
yeah, but Matt, I'll tell you, watching that Netflix series, nostalgia is great, but it's been 30 years going into this year. It's a long time. And
it has been a long time. You're right. It's in the rearview mirror right now. But I have a lot of hope for the Eagles this year. Here's what I always say about any sports team. I just want them to go deep, right? I want to have something to watch that's quality for as long as I can. Yes, it's wonderful when you get an NFC championship or you win a Super Bowl, right? But I just don't want to have crappy football. I don't want to be talking to you in October or November and saying, wow, it's awesome Jack won, but now there's nothing to watch on TV because the Eagles are sucking it up and election season's over. I guess it's time to start watching Home Alone and Santa Claus, right? So that's really my wish of wishes. I think the Eagles are doing what they do well, which is adjusting in the offseason. They're taking risks. It's something the squad, I know Howie Roseman kind of,
great GM. I would argue the best GM in the sport, where they're never complacent. They're always looking at the waiver wire.
Yeah.
And they're active. I mean, there was a meme today of Jerry Jones sleeping on a beach. I'm like, that's Joe Biden. I mean, that is my general manager sleeping on a beach while the Eagles and the Giants, even though the Giants I don't think will be that good this year, I think it's a lot of hype. The Redskins are going to be very competitive. The Eagles are still, they're the reigning defending champions. It just shows that Rosen is always active and, to your point, not complacent at all. It's why, again, the Eagles are here. You got some people in the NFC. The Lions might make some noise. The Niners.
Yeah.
See who else. The Cowboys. A couple things. The ball bounces the right way. They could be maybe 10-7, 9-8. Who knows? But the Eagles right now look like they could have a pretty good run for the next couple of years, barring health or play calling or wherever you want to have you.
And I think they're strengthening where they need to strengthen. Like the other day, I think one of the guys they picked up, it was Fred Johnson from Jacksonville, right? I think
yeah.
Offensive lineman, right? And that's definitely where they need some strength. You have to have big guys on the line to have your offense be able to successfully execute. I know they say, offense wins games, defense wins championships. I think at the end of the day, there's nothing more important than a good O-line. So I'm cautiously optimistic for the Eagles. I'm cautiously optimistic for Jack Ciattarelli. If you made me bet, my friend, I think that there's a better chance Jack becomes governor than the Eagles repeat. But I also have a lot of confidence that it's going to be a very happy November because my Eagles are going to be playing better than your Cowboys.
Yeah, definitely.
And we're going to be talking about then we're going to be talking about the Ciattarelli administration coming to you.
Don't disagree. How about the Phillies? How do you feel about them going into October, Matt?
Is there anything better than October baseball?
Oh, absolutely.
A minute ago.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you because, I'm a total wuss. I hate going to Phillies games in July when it's 300 degrees.
Oh, it's brutal.
I want to be comfortable at all times, my friends. So, this is my favorite time of year to actually go to games. I mean, look, baseball, it's always, I think, relatively simple. It's all about peaking at the right time. We're not talking about 16 games, right? We're talking about a long season where teams that look like they're headed for a World Series before the All-Star break fall apart. The Phillies are on a good trajectory right now. They look really tight at the moment. Everything is clicking. As we're on air right now, they're leading the Mets, which is a beautiful thing. My brother-in-law, God love him, is probably really pissed off wherever he is this evening, along with a lot of mutual friends of mine and yours. I mean, I like where they're at. I think that there's a decent chance they're going to go deep.
Matt, hopefully we'll be grabbing drinks at the League of Municipalities celebrating a Jack win coming up on November the 4th. And folks, again, you have choices. And if you want to get New Jersey more affordable, you want to have better fiscal decision-making in Trenton, it starts with early voting, vote by mail. And on November the 4th, now is as good a time as ever to flip at New Jersey, as red as this logo on this program here on Jersey First TV. Matt, listen, and of course your great shirt as well, Matt. You're always a gentleman. I appreciate your insight. Thank you for being a fan of the show and my brand of journalism, which, again, a lot of the establishment media doesn't like, but too bad. Traffic talks and bullshit walks, as they say in this business.
Amen.
But, I'll give you the last word here tonight on Real Talk.
Yeah, you really do provide a valuable service, and it's not just BS. I'm saying to be polite because I'm on your program. It's guys like you that have helped change the narrative in this state. You and your audience, of course, because it'd be nothing without the people that shared it and liked it. Final word, my friend: don't be hard-headed. You said it a moment ago, Fernando. You got to vote early. You got to bank those votes like you did in 2024. These elections, 2024 and 2025. Are not distinct. If you showed up for President Trump last year, you need to turn out for Jack Ciattarelli this fall. If we lose in Virginia and New Jersey, you know what the narrative is going to be from the leftist media, that MAG is dead, that there's a blue wave coming. We need to keep the momentum going. We can do it. We are so close, but you got to believe and you need to act accordingly. You have the ability to save your state. But how much do you want it? That's the question you need to answer in the coming weeks.
Absolutely. Man, keep up the great work at WPHT. 1210, right?
1210 WPHT, folks. Saturday nights, 7 to 9. And, of course, we live in a podcast world, right? So you can go to Spotify, Amazon, all the places you can get them. Please subscribe to the Matt Rooney Show. We make it entertaining.
You're not on Sundays anymore? I know you were on Sundays consistently, but you're back on Saturdays now?
I moved to Saturdays. We were on Sundays for years. Then we flipped over to Saturday nights, and we added the podcast, so you can check it out 7 to 9. It's a great slot. It's a very busy slot. We get some great guests. It's a hell of a lot of fun.
Matt, keep up the great work, man. Again, we're both doing our part to help flip New Jersey red this November. And we'll talk to you again soon here on Real Talk. And during the NFL season, I'm sure, listen, you'll say go Eagles. I'll say go Cowboys. We'll find out in a couple of weeks how the season starts. Brother, love you. Keep up the great work. My best to your wife and your beautiful children. And thank you for supporting Jersey First TV.
Feelings mutual. Talk to you soon, my friend.
Take care, brother. Bye-bye. Folks, good stuff there with Matt Rooney. Again, the distinguished founder of Save Jersey. Again, you can visit SaveJersey.com for the best conservative analysis and commentary of what's going on in New Jersey politics. Again, I love reading Save Jersey on a regular basis. I love getting the notifications in my inbox, obviously, of all the great content brought to you by Matt Rooney and all the great people at Save Jersey. Again, so if you haven't done so already, visit SaveJersey.com. Make sure you like them on Facebook. Of course, follow them on Instagram and Twitter and X, and certainly tell your friends about all the great content brought to you, once again, by Matt Rooney and all the great people at Save Jersey via SaveJersey.com. Again, great conversation. Breaks it down. Listen, again, folks, I can be humble. I know I'm not the most humble guy around, but listen, for me being the Ric Flair of conservative politics here in media and commentary, Matt Rooney's been the Hulk Hogan since 2008. He's been that standard here in New Jersey. I'm privileged to call him a friend, and I'm really, really grateful for his insight and his hard work to really get common sense, conservative principles and ideas out there into the media echo chamber. And I would argue nobody does it better than Matt Rooney via Save Jersey at SaveJersey.com. Folks, it's 8:20 here on the East Coast. Again, I can't say enough about really looking at the numbers here, looking at the live stream, looking at the traffic on X, on Facebook, also on LinkedIn, on YouTube as well. Folks, without you, my loyal viewing audience, these numbers wouldn't be possible. And I just don't say it as a gimmick, folks. You know, you have your little Mickey Mouse journalists, your little Mickey Mouse shows, little Mickey Mouse news sites. Folks, there's nothing Mickey Mouse here. It's real conversations. It's real dialogue. It's real traffic because it's real talk. It's not a gimmick, folks. Again, I'm the hero you need right now as the establishment media continues to lie to you every single day. But guess who won't? That's right, me, Fernando Uribe. Folks, it's what you've been waiting for. You know what time it is. It's time for final thoughts. And yes, folks, you know, one of the things that reminds me about how, I guess, intellectually bankrupt the media echo chamber is in New Jersey is not just, obviously, you have the usual inept propagandists masquerading as journalists. I mean, folks, take your pick. You have Uncle Dave with NJ Spotlight News. And it's interesting because, you know, someone like Uncle Dave is the first person to kill President Donald Trump and Republicans in Congress for cutting the funding to NPR and PBS. Not a peep from Uncle Dave and everybody at NJ Spotlight News or NJ PBS, where Democrats who control the legislature cut funding for NJ PBS and NJ Spotlight News by 75%, but not a peep out of Uncle Dave. Again, that would require Uncle Dave to have what's called, you know, that 4-syllable word that he struggles with, you know, integrity. Right? But we all know the disservice that the other Mickey Mouse news sites in New Jersey perform on a daily basis. Take your pick, folks. How the Graham family continues to fund a bullshit operation like Insider NJ, led by Pete O'Neill and Max Mazzaro, boggles the mind, folks. I mean, listen, to Mike and Ryan Graham, if you just love giving money away, listen, throw some money my way. I know you used to, but throw some money my way. I could use a new PlayStation. I could use another vacation. You know what I'm saying? But it just seems like whether it's Insider NJ or Politico, and again, shout out to Dustin Rasiopi, hardworking guy, their editor-in-chief. Can't say the same for Matt Friedman. I mean, this lazy bastard, I mean, let's be honest, if he works 4 months out of the year, that's a miracle. okay? When he's not having a perpetual erection in his pants about marijuana. I mean, let's be honest, folks. The only pussy in the house that can stand to be near him are his cats. Let's be fair about it. Or Chucky, Charles Style with NorthJersey.com, or the other propagandists that we know in New Jersey media, John Van Vliet, who, let's be honest, folks, I mean, we all know when John Van Vliet arrives at any event, I mean, his nose gets there before he does, let's be honest. Okay? Or propagandists like Alan Steinberg, who, let's be honest, I mean, when you listen to Alan Steinberg on dynamic political centrism and all 7 people that watch his show, including his girlfriend, who's just as old as he is, if not older, okay? Or other propagandists like Bob Hennelly, Jay Lassiter, right? I mean, you want to talk about a guy, listen, we all know about lazy journalists, right? Like David Cruz, Matt Friedman. Folks, is there anybody lazier than Jay Lassiter? Okay. The idea that he, along with Patty Campos Medina and all these insufferable cat ladies at the South Jersey Progressive Democrats held an event or fundraiser for Mikey Sherrill this weekend. Listen, I got to give you credit, Jay, because you don't work. You are one lazy bastard. So I was impressed to even see you work over the weekend. But folks, this is the thing. These clowns are what make up today's media echo chamber. And somebody who's trying really, really hard to sort of get into that chamber or into that club of journalism, right? And let's be honest, folks. It's the resident clown, Leonard Filipowski here in Hudson County. And I get it. It's the same 5 or 6 people that continually sort of clap along like seals at the circus when the trainer's throwing them a fish. The usual clowns like John Hughes when he's not hitting the liquor cabinet. I mean, blindly supporting clowns like Leonard Filipowski. Or John Bender, who lives to, coddle propagandists like Leonard Filipowski. Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. John Bender isn't with us anymore. Oh, sorry about that. Almost forgot. Or retired police officers like Ernie Rivera Batiz, right? Like, let's be honest about Chiquitin, folks. I mean, the only A's this illiterate ever saw on his report card were in his name. Or others like Joe Blaitler, who thankfully we haven't heard from since primary day, and hopefully good riddance to Joe Blaitler. He's been an insufferable little bitch online for years. Or other local illiterates that support Leonard Filipowski, like, supposed activists like Jose Garrido. Folks, illiterate like this who barely leaves his house are the same 5, 6 people supporting clowns like Leonard Filipowski. And by the way, to Jose, like, do us all a favor. You might want to clean up your social media. I don't need to see your saggy tits on social media or pictures shown to me. Okay, I haven't seen tits that saggy since visiting, the world famous AJ Strip Club in Secaucus. Is that even around anymore? I'm not sure. That was probably the last time I saw tits as saggy as the ones I see on Jose Garrido. Or the other clowns that support Leonard Filipowski. Right? Who, again, what shred of integrity do you have, Leonard, when we all know you've taken money from political candidates? How is that even showing integrity? For a guy that cries and bitches and moans as much as he does about corruption and, hey, I'm part of the constitutional guardians, myself with the other clowns, like, what are their names? New Jersey Audit or Long Island Truth or Full Court Press. I mean, these are the clowns supporting Leonard Filipowski and somehow trying to prop him up and say, oh my goodness, you're doing such a good job. You know what they remind me of, folks? Like the 5, 6 idiots I just mentioned who constantly just keep liking his videos, again, with the same amount of likes and same amount of people. It reminds me of like that parent who like has that kid who's like, who is dumb as shit. And is trying really hard, right, in school, and somehow got on the honor roll just because, they're breathing, right? That's what they sound like. That's what they look like when they're trying to prop up clowns like Leonard Filipowski. And you saw that during this election cycle right up until primary day. But what's more embarrassing about Leonard Filipowski, aside from this picture behind me, I mean, who thought it was a good idea to tell Leonard Filipowski to wear dress pants with white socks, brown shoes, and a tank top to show off the least masculine and muscular arms I've ever seen on a man. Okay, if you're going to wear a tank top, folks, on a motorcycle, do me a favor, Leonard, hit the gym. Work on traps. Work on chest. Work on biceps, triceps. Do something that at least when you're on a motorcycle trying to look like a badass, you end up looking like a dumbass. Now, I get it. The usual people love to coddle them and support them. Like the seals getting fish at the circus. But the latest example about why Leonard Filipowski continues to be a joke and why we can't take him seriously is the outright pandering to the township of North Bergen. And we've all learned, again, folks, why not to take the administration there seriously, right? With the amount of potholes we see on Tunnelly Avenue, along the avenues between Kennedy Boulevard and Bergen Line Avenue in North Bergen. I know. I drive through there all the time. Okay? And even when there's a torrential downpour of rain, somehow still the Department of Public Works thinks it's okay to send a street sweeper along with the North Bergen Parking Enforcement Authority. Because they're just eager for your money in North Bergen, folks. We've all learned that. But you know who's even more eager for money, folks? Leonard Filipowski. Check out this. I mean, folks, I can't imagine an example of a grown man in his 70s like Leonard Filipowski openly trying to kiss the ass of the entire administration in North Bergen. You don't believe me? Well, take a look.
Welcome, Truth Seekers. I am Leroy Truth for Leroy Truth Investigation, and I am at the incredible North Bergen Community Summer Pool Party, and it is awesome. And my friend George Raposo and I came here and got some phenomenal food and snacks.
Check a look at this place, man. It's great. Check a look. That's quite a phrase. There's like 1,000 or 2,000 people here. They had live music from the 50s, maybe 60s, and food is delicious.
So stay tuned for much more of the joy and beauty of Hudson County here on Leroy Truth of Leroy Truth Investigation.
I mean, folks, my God, is there a sadder display of maybe trying to beg for a job in the township of North Bergen? I hear they're hiring at the Board of Ed in North Bergen. I think Director of Security, I think that job opened up. Okay, I think that job's available, right? I think there's a vacancy there, right? The Director of Security at North Bergen Board of Education. I think that job's available. Maybe Leonard's competent enough to do that one because God knows the previous guy who sat in that seat wasn't competent at all. Okay? But that is the level of cringe we're seeing out of Leonard Filipowski, folks, who somehow thinks that he's doing a public service, that somehow he, along with the constitutional guardians, more like the constitutional jackasses, okay, are somehow performing a public service. Here's another example of Leonard Filipowski, again, thinking he's such a badass, he looks like a dumbass. Don't believe me? Again, folks, let's go to the videotape.
Welcome, Truth Seekers. I am Leroy Truth of Leroy Truth Investigations. And I am here today at the most depraved, decrepit, corrupt place for politics on the planet, Ground Zero, corrupt Mayor and Senator Brian Stack's Union City, New Jersey. I'm here to pick up some Oprah requests, which are some videos from the insane, corrupt. That's just the word. I should just use corrupt for everything.
Well, again, folks, this is all, folks, and by the way, right there. I mean, is there a better definition or a poster child for a come mierda like Leonard Filipowski? The same tie, same suit. Actually, I'm surprised. He usually wears like a black suit. Actually, mixed it up a little bit. Maybe Tony Hector bought him a suit. Since Tony Hector likes throwing money around, maybe he bought him a new suit. But here's where Leonard's very disingenuous. There is no statute that requires municipalities to abide by how they wish to disseminate information based on Oprah requests. Some municipalities don't charge, some do. See, Leonard, maybe you slept through civics class or American government. Municipalities can govern themselves how they wish. And when it comes to Oprah requests, every municipality can choose to administer them as they wish. The smaller the town, perhaps they don't mind incurring the cost. But in a big city, a city like Union City, whose population continues to boom, whose school district remains one of the best in the state, don't believe me? Don't take my word for it. Read the New York Times. One of the school districts in New Jersey, if not the country, with the least amount of learning loss. Folks, again, that is due largely in part to the incredible leadership by the superintendent, the assistant superintendents, and all the administrators in the school district. So Union City is a thriving city, not just with education, but the city itself. People want to live in Union City. People want to move to Union City. There is an incredible amount of commerce moving into Union City. Okay? The idea that Leonard Filipowski, see, folks, this is the problem with Leonard Filipowski. Leonard Filipowski thinks that he's like sort of the judge, jury, and says and sort of the end all be all and say all about what should go on in a municipality. What type of credentials does this idiot have to talk about governing? I wouldn't trust this fool to run a hot dog stand or a lemonade stand in the middle of a heat wave during the summer. But somehow he knows more than you folks. Somehow Leonard Filipowski is the end-all be-all of wisdom. He's the oracle of politics. No, folks, what Leonard Filipowski is, he's become the bastion of bullshit. Don't believe me? Let's continue.
Because it is. It is my good friend Captain George Raposo of North Bergen, New Jersey Police Department, was inexplicably stopped and ticketed.
No, not inexplicably, Leonard. When you are doing a U-turn on Kennedy Boulevard, a very busy county road, I'm sorry. See, this is the thing, folks. If a police officer wasn't ticketed, Leonard Filipowski would be the first person denouncing the move, right? Not that he ever denounces anything going on in North Bergen. Not that he ever denounces anything when it comes to the North Bergen Police Department. When it comes to Union City, whether it's the public library or the police department, Leonard never, ever misses the chance to take shots. You ever wonder why he's like so philosophically inconsistent? I mean, we all know, folks. We all know the act behind this bullshit. But let's continue.
By Officer Timothy T. Middlebrooks of Union City Police while Captain George Raposo was on duty in his police car, working in his capacity as a police officer. No one ever...
And I guarantee you, if, God forbid, Officer Raposo, as he engaged in a U-turn on Kennedy Boulevard, and let's say for the sake of argument, he decided to get into an accident because of that illegal turn, and he wasn't sanctioned, Leonard would be the first person denouncing the nearby Union City Police Department and saying, oh, well, there you go. There's Union City PD not doing their job. You see, folks, there's no way to win with this idiot. He's going to live to bitch and bitch to live. He reminds me a lot of some of my ex-girlfriends. Que tiki, joden, y que matraca. He reminds me of like all the cat ladies and all the ugly feminists and all the progressives that live locally. It's like they live to bitch. It's like if they can't bitch, is their existence worth anything? That is who Leonard Filipowski has become, folks. If Leonard Filipowski cannot bitch and moan or joder or quejarse, what good is he? Let's continue.
has heard this happening before in the state of New Jersey. It's insane. And there is so much to this story because it allegedly that Captain George Raposo got 2 tickets in retaliation for being my friend. Allegedly?
No, Leonard. He got 2 tickets because he committed a motor vehicle infraction. Now, if we want accountability for everybody, what are you trying to say? Oh, because he's a police captain, that if he engages in a motor vehicle infraction, that we should just look the other way? Aren't you the first one always bitching and moaning about accountability? Oh, no one's above the law, right? Isn't that your whole shtick? Isn't that all the same bullshit you've been peddling since December of 2023. No one's above the law. I want accountability. Well, we're getting accountability for Raposo. And here you are bitching and moaning about it. Folks, again, this is why you can't take him seriously. This is why you can't take his supporters seriously. Because they enable this stupidity. Let's continue.
Commanded and directed by Mayor Brian Stack and Chief Anthony Ficini. I received, through open requests, cost a stupid amount of money, over $210. I think it was maybe $220 to get videos.
But Leonard, I mean, don't you have it? You received $10,000 during the first, I think, quarter of the ELEC report, right? Didn't Tony Hector and Frank Alonso give you $10,000? Since you always talk about sources, well, sources told me that that check was never delivered. But aren't you getting paid? I mean, you live in Connecticut, so how are you living? What are you living on? Ramen noodles? Cereal? Who's paying for your gas? Who's paying for tolls? Who's paying for your wardrobe? Well, I mean, you don't have much of one. But here you are complaining about money. Again, this is the same guy who's lazy. You can't even go on the New Jersey Society of Professional Journalists website and apply for press credentials. Because again, whether it's the NJSPA, the New Jersey Society of Professional Journalists, or the New Jersey Press Association. Again, folks, these are the governing bodies that bestow press credentials. Only cost you, like, I think a little over 50, maybe $60 to apply for press credentials. Leonard, what, you don't have the money? But here you are bitching and moaning about Oprah requests and what they cost you. Again, didn't you just get $10,000 last election cycle? Aren't you still getting paid by somebody? All right. Who is it? Tony Hector? Others? Maybe some in the administration of the Township of North Bergen? Maybe some in Jersey City? You complain about Oprah requests? Here's a newsflash. How about don't file one when you know it's frivolous? And again, the Union City Police Officer is doing his job. He's seen someone perform a motor vehicle infraction. If he didn't do his job, he'd be bitching and moaning. Now he did his job, he's still bitching and moaning. There's no winning with this idiot, folks. There just isn't.
Of the body cam footage that North Bergen charges $0. Jersey City charges $0.
Oh, yeah. North Bergen doesn't charge $0 for Oprah requests, but trust me, they'll milk you for everything else. You want an overnight parking pass? I know. Trust me. When I've had to spend the night in North Bergen at Lady Friends' house, trust me, you got to get an overnight parking pass. When it comes to, like, street sweeping, yeah, it doesn't matter if it's a tsunami of rain. Trust me. Anthony Beneri is going to direct DPW and the parking authority to go ticket vehicles. So don't come at me about North Bergen doesn't charge anything. They'll charge for everything else. So please stop the bullshit.
Union City charges over $73 an hour to try to prevent people from getting videos. Ridiculous. And thank you to all the supporters who have been contributing money to.
Of course, as you continue to beg for money, as you put your PayPal account, your Zelle account, and your Venmo account on your socials. Folks, who does that? Who does that? Shameless propagandists like Leonard Filipowski do. That's what we've learned, folks.
This cause to get these videos. So I got Timothy Middlebrook's video while he was in this retaliation interaction with Captain George Raposo, and what it said was even bigger than what it didn't say. Unlawfully, illegally, Timothy Middlebrooks turned his body camera off. We're missing at least 20 minutes of video over a 40-minute interaction. That's against the law. Plus, Timothy Middlebrooks also muted his body cam, which is also against the law once you are engaged in a traffic stop. So I'm picking up two more officers' videos who were nearby Timothy Middlebrooks to attempt to bring all the dots together to see what was missing from Timothy Middlebrooks' video. And from what I hear, is Timothy Middlebrooks also asked, I think it was Sergeant Garces, to turn off her body cam. And which I hear that on her video, we'll hear say, oh, you want me to turn off my body cam? And she then does. But you couldn't hear Timothy Middlebrooks. I think he whispered it. Let's go get this video footage. And as we go into the most corrupt government center in the entire United States, Mayor Brian Stack, over 4,300 allegations of corruption against him. Insanity, ladies and gentlemen.
Folks, you want to hear about insanity? It's the level of childishness and infantile behavior that we've come to. And I'm not going to share much more of this. I think you get the picture. I think you get the picture about how inept and juvenile Leonard Filipowski continues to be. Never mind the fact that this picture's still out there. I mean, it's embarrassing. Again, Leonard, you have more than enough money. It seems like you can afford a press pass. How about like a gym membership while you're at it? I wouldn't be rocking those arms and calling them guns if you're not working on traps or pecs or chest or arms and back. Just a word of advice. As someone who tries to work out and tries to be healthy, and again, I'm not competing in Mr. Universe or Mr. Olympia anytime soon. Why would I? God knows I know the importance about working out and trying to stay healthy. You should too. What you should learn more than anything, Leonard, is, again, it's the reality of like no one takes you seriously when you're pandering for one administration, like we see in the Township of North Bergen. Again, folks, on behalf of everybody that just exhibits common sense and just some element of decency, Leonard, do better. I know the idiots that support you online can't do better. I mean, we all know they're just as useless as you are. But you need to do better, man. You're a grown man in your late 70s. Do better. But at this point in time, it might be too late for Leonard Filipowski. Speaking about being too late and really needing to be better, folks, we all know that here in New Jersey, since November of last year, the Trump Derangement Syndrome Society, obviously there's no shortage of members. We all know who they are, whether it's in media, academia, activism, advocacy. Take your pick, folks. This list behind me is ever growing and ever evolving. It's been updated regularly and it'll continue to be updated. Whether it's useless women like, I don't know, Antoinette Pope and Jay Lassiter, who I know, by the way, I know you can't recognize in that picture there, but trust me, it's Jay Lassiter, folks. I know you can't recognize it because, he's got something in his mouth. But then again, when doesn't Jay Lassiter have something in his mouth? That's a topic for another day. Or others in academia like low-T soy boys like Joe Amaditis over at Woke State University in Montclair. Or useless propagandists who try to masquerade as journalists. Alan Steinberg, John Van Vliet, Max Pizarro, Bob Hannelly, others at Insider NJ. Again, folks, Mike and Ryan Graham collectively, if you just like throwing money away and pissing money away, I get it. Listen, I could use a new PlayStation. I could use some money. Maybe I might want to go back to Vegas. I wouldn't mind a trip back to Vegas. Since you like throwing money around and just throwing it at outright garbage, like with who you employ there, you just want to throw money around, throw it my way. I'll gladly accept it. Or useless activists, right? Who for example, I had to run into Laura Bustamante last week. Has this woman ever seen a treadmill in her life? One of the insufferable alphabet, identity hysterics in New Jersey politics. Folks, let's be honest about Laura Bustamante. The only machine she ever knows of at a gym are the vending machines, but more on that later. Or other useless activists like Nadia Morsi or Patricia Campos Medina, right? Or Lauren Albrecht or Hetty Rosenstein or virtue signalers like Hoboken Mayor Ravi Bala or Phil Cohen, who, by the way, folks, if you ever see Phil Cohen, make sure you're never in an enclosed space with Phil Cohen. Okay? The size of that nose, you might pass out from oxygen deprivation. With the size of those nostrils, you want to talk about monopolizing the oxygen in the room. That's Phil Cohen for sure. Okay? Or other TDS children, like Charles Stile and Matt Friedman and Sarah Clanany from Make the Road, New Jersey. Or useless people like Bob Medina, who, by the way, it's 8:50 p.m. Eastern time. Oh, Bob Medina's been sleeping since 3:50 p.m. Trust me, he's not awake. He'll catch the replay because he can't help himself. But you know what, folks? You know what's really interesting? It's the amount of TDS that you see behind me there is quite evident at NJ.com too. And an article that came across my desk over the weekend was pretty interesting. About, again, somehow Asma Aluni, an organizer for the group Resistencia en Acción NJ, was arrested recently in Trenton for obstruction while ICE was attempting to conduct a raid in Trenton. Again, as my illustrious colleague Matt Rooney in the conservative sphere so eloquently explained, it's simply enforcing federal immigration law. But don't tell that to Asma Aluni. Sorry if I mispronounced the name. I don't really care, but But this is interesting, and of course, there's no shortage of interesting letters at NJ.com. Well, let's sort of go with the article here, as they say, by Daisy Calvia Robertson. Oof. It's another propagandist for NJ Advanced Media. So she wrote, it was close to 7:30 in the morning Thursday when Asma Aluni, an organizer with immigrants' rights group Resistencia en Action NJ, got the urgent call. A Central American family in Trenton's Bayard Street needed help. By the way, folks, it's a shithole there. So kudos and my prayers go out to all the ICE agents and all the brave men and women of the Trenton Police Department that have to patrol that shithole of an area in Trenton. Federal immigration agents were outside their door and trying to come in. They said they were scared and were unsure what to do. Asma, who's part of Resistencia's rapid response team, a team that provides support and legal aid to immigrants during and after ICE raids, immediately rushed to the home where she says she was met by hostile ICE agents. No, folks, they're not hostile. What they are is just annoyed because they have to deal with annoying cat ladies, okay, like Asma. Don't believe me? Check out the video here from the body cam footage captured by Resistencia en Action NJ. And folks, you can make the decision at how insufferable. Folks, trust me when I tell you. She is the typical smell. Folks, when you look at her in the picture there, just look at her right there. If any picture outright smells like cat piss, it's just looking at this picture right here. Okay, you can smell the cat piss on Asma right through this picture. Imagine being in this woman's home. It must stink. Now, of course, she's one of these insufferable feminists, as you can tell. All right, that clearly, nothing photogenic about her, but let's go into how insufferable she is, along with really all the other activists that somehow want to die on this hill about protecting illegals in New Jersey.
The property. That's great.
You're on video.
Shame on all of you.
Okay.
Shame on every single one of you.
You're going on private property.
No, this is not. No, you don't have a warrant. You don't have a warrant. You don't belong here. Show me. Show me. Show me your warrant. Every single one of you is ICE. Show me your warrant. Shame. Shame. Stay in your house. Are you okay?
Actually, you should stay in your house and take a shower, Asma. I can almost smell it from here.
Okay?
Yeah, no, he's not okay. He's under arrest.
Whoever's in the house, do not open the door. Whoever's in the house, do not open the door. They're not entitled to your private spaces. These people are thugs. They're abductors. Shame. Sorry, man.
You were arrested
I'm so
already
sorry.
once.
Yes, I'm happy to. Shame on you. Shame on you. You're fascist. Shame on you.
Get out of here.
Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on all of you.
Yep.
Shame on every single one of you.
Absolutely.
Immigration Customs Enforcement is in the
Everybody
neighborhood.
knows. Everybody already knows.
Stay home. Do
Everybody
not
knows. All right, we're looking
open
for
your
one person.
door.
We're looking for everybody else.
Shame. Look at them. What?
I mean, look at Asma. I mean, shame, and she probably hasn't seen a shower in the days since then. But let's continue.
What's your name? What's your name and badge number? Do not push me. Do not push me. Do not touch me. Do not have a constitutional right.
You're being recorded.
Yes, you have a constitutional right to be an insufferable. Well, it's a family-friendly show. I could use some language, but I won't because I'm a gentleman. But yes, you have a constitutional right to be annoying and to be an insufferable cat lady and ugly feminist, like a lot of the progressives on the left in New Jersey are such champions to be. Let's continue, though.
Great. I have a constitutional right to record. Shame on you. Shame on you. What's your name? What's your badge number?
Badge number.
Where's your badge number? Absolutely. You guys could be anything. We don't know. We want to see your badge number. We want to see your badge number.
Absolutely.
Shame. What's your name? And you're brown
Don't
too,
stop me,
dude. Dude, you know that. Why are you doing that?
Don't say
You be quiet. You
Don't say
too.
something
You
like
too.
that.
Shame on you. Do you have a family? Do you have a
Don't say
family?
something like
Do you
that.
have a family?
Oh, my God, folks. Imagine coming home to this woman here. Imagine coming home to the smell of kitty litter and cat piss in that house and listening to that shrieking voice. Imagine, folks, again, it's interesting about being in that part of Trenton. Imagine being the guy being married to that. Dios mío. Make you want to drink to sleep or maybe score some crack, which probably isn't difficult to do in the streets of Trenton right there in that neighborhood. But folks, you see what I'm saying here? It's this level of insufferability that reminds us all why Donald Trump won last November. It's the reason why everyone remembers why different demographics flipped to voting Republican last year. Because they're tired of sanctuary cities and states that coddle illegals, that take federal dollars, again, for Medicaid, and put it into a legal fund to help illegals receive health care. Folks, your tax dollars are subsidizing illegals in the amount of almost $7 billion per year in New Jersey. Are you happy about that? Okay. Are you happy that unfortunately you have to deal with insufferable women like Esma Aluni and some of the insufferable women behind me there that, again, take your pick, folks. Hetty Rosenstein, Jay Lassiter, Patricia Campos Medina, Nettie Morsi, Lauren Albrecht, Tiffany Fisher, Laura Bustamante, Amy Torres, Sarah Kalanani, other insufferable women like Matt Friedman and Charles Stile, Antoinette Pope, low testosterone soy boys like Joe Amaditas. Folks, these are the people that champion the cause for illegals. These are the people that live in their nice little communities that they don't care about the damage that illegals do to our communities, destroying the quality of life in our towns, utilizing resources in our hospitals, in our school districts, our social services. They don't care. You think Patty Medina and Bob Medina care? They're in their nice little white picket fence home somewhere down in central Jersey. You think Laura Bustamante cares? She's making over $100,000. And it shows. I mean, clearly she's not, skipping out on groceries. Working for the Andy Kim office. Or Lauren Albrecht working with Garden State Equality, who somehow thinks that pronouns are more important than property taxes and public safety. But this one would be the first one to bitch and moan about misgendering people, coddling illegals, and, standing up for mentally ill people. Trans people, the mentally ill. Folks, these are the individuals, along with the woman I just showed you in that video, that continues to turn New Jersey into a shithole. You have a choice on November the 4th. Do you want to continue upon this path? Or we're spending $7 billion to coddle illegals here in New Jersey? Or do you want to allow law enforcement to work with ICE to get rid of dangerous illegals, to get rid of people here or here illegally anyway? Folks, you have a choice. Now, don't listen to these idiots behind me. No, it's not worth it. You'll lose brain cells reading them, hearing from them. You have a choice, folks, on November the 4th. And it's time to flip New Jersey red. If you haven't gotten the memo, well, they haven't gotten the memo since last November. And it's a strong possibility that they never will. And those are my final thoughts. Folks, that's our show for this week. Once again, I want to thank Matt Rooney, the founder of Save Jersey via SaveJersey.com. Folks, I can't say enough about, quite frankly, the traffic looks great tonight. The live views on X, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook continue to be very, very good. Thank you for everyone that has shared tonight's episode, that's retweeted it. Again, folks, without all of you, the success of this show wouldn't be possible. So, once again, I want to thank our guest tonight, of course, all of you for tuning in here and making this a part of your Monday night viewing. Once again, folks, make sure you check us out on all of our social media platforms. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and X, and of course, subscribe on YouTube. And don't forget, whether you get your podcast at Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First and take us with you anywhere at any time, whether you're driving down to Tiki Mondays, down in Point Pleasant, and the remaining Tiki Mondays that we have left during the summer, whether you're moving your kids back to campus, whether you're buying clothes or uniforms for your kids as they start kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, and even high school. You always have your smartphone with you, right? Check out Jersey First. Trust me, folks, you won't regret it. And of course, I can't say enough about what a privilege it is to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. Front and center, it's always Jersey First TV, folks. Check out brand new episodes of Real Talk Live every Monday night here on the Jersey First Television Network. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's Real Talk here on the Jersey First Television Network. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it is me, the generational talent in Garden State Media, and I'll continue to be the sworn enemy of all the social justice clowns, woke fools, smelly cat ladies, ugly feminists, and all the identity hysterics here. That's right, folks. It's me, Fernando Uribe, the hero you need right now more than ever. As the establishment media continues to lie to you, guess who won't? That's right, Fernando Uribe. Folks, I want to thank you all for tuning in here. Please like the episode, share it. It goes a long way in getting the episode out and the content out to more people on all of your social media platforms. Folks, enjoy the rest of August. We'll again resume next month again as we enter Labor Day weekend. Please party responsibly. Program, we will not be live next Monday, again, due to Labor Day. We'll be on next Tuesday night with one of the Hoboken mayoral candidates. Will be joining us live next Tuesday. Check your local listings for start time, folks. And again, election season is well underway. We'll be covering it here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. That's right, folks. Please party responsibly. Enjoy Labor Day weekend. Look after your kids. Look after the elderly. Again, now more than ever, folks, make sure you don't drink and drive. Take an Uber or Lyft. Arrive alive. And enjoy the rest of your summer as we'll be entering September next week, folks, here on the Jersey First Television Network. Enjoy the rest of your week, folks, and we'll see you in September here on Jersey First TV. Thanks for stopping by. And always remember, stay classy, everyone.